내 강가서 대 주중에서 먹으시라 되잖아. 대 주먹어 대 강가서 계시 되래. 대만 대리 가고 중간에 내가 먼저 이제 사버지. 이모 제 이모 진행을 했다 도와 먹지야. 제주도 가고 중제가 아들은 내 줘야 되니. 규익이 절로 자단다. 개이 직주그죠.
Good afternoon. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm so happy to see my old friends like Jim Smith and others. I'm also seeing a lot of new friends here. Today I'm going to give a brief presentation on a title here, Classical Tibetan Pronunciation, the Basis for a Common Language.
규이 코모사드 난게 투미 벽이 깨를 때네 이게 소 그럼 대형 벽에 난게 자 저당당 저당 때네 이게 장당 근데 소주의
The Tibetan language developed, especially the written language developed by Tume Sampoda. And when Tume Sampoda created this Tibetan alphabet and other scriptures, he made a very important choice, which is the written language is based on how people really spoke, how people pronounce each terminologies. And that's a very important part of the consideration when Tume Sampoda created this culture. And it's I don't have the exact month and day details, but the one understanding is the Tume Sampoda and the whole thing happened around the 6th century.
뭐뭐 별로 그이 러버 당부 졸로 자당 좋은 거거든. 근데 졸로 자당 장거 졸로기 인주 졸로기 인주 자 베리신 좀버나 다도 바닥가 더불어
So when you look at the Tibetan reading system, there are two, the classical reading system known as the Jorlok, in which you spell out all the words, each by one by one. And later they have this Dulo, which is the abbreviated reading system, where you only pronounce the syllables, not the word by word. And so when Tume Sampoda initially created the reading system, and he introduced the Jorlok, meaning spelling out the pronunciation of all the words. One example, the word for back, the self. And the classical reading is a padaka, in which all three words are pronounced, padaka. And the abbreviated reading system is back, where it's like a self in English, and the classical system would be SELF, something similar to that.
이내 치수로당 겹치에 이게 자 냠에 치부중 대규대니 둘로급 인류 장문구 매발도 그러나 딱 시르는 딱 가리 대담 양은 라다인 셰무도 강해 중
And this Jorlok reading, the reading system, is later kind of declined, and which was replaced by the Dulok abbreviated reading system, which we do currently. And as a result, this abbreviated reading system miss out a lot of important sounds in the word, and so it sometimes creates confusion. For example, the word for horse is spelled as a ra-da-da-da. And in the classical Jolo system, the word would be produced as a rada. In the Jolo system, you would read it as a rada, and these days it's called da. It misses out the ra part. As a result, when you hear the word, you wouldn't be able to figure out whether this da is for horse or da for sea. And if you follow the Jolo system, say rada, then you would know it's a horse because it spells out each word. We have a lot of examples for these cases. When you follow the Jolo system, then you would figure out by hearing the word what exactly how it's spelled, what is the meaning of the word. For example, usually the word for tiger, the Dulo abbreviated pronunciation would say da. It doesn't mean anything unless you hear the word next to the context. But if you follow the Jolo system, it will say sadaka, and then you know this is word for particular tiger, so on. So by looking at the Jolo system, and then if you compare this to the Dulo abbreviated pronunciation, you would see one of the major problems with the abbreviated system is it loses a lot of sound. And so one of the major problems with the abbreviated pronunciation is because it's losing a lot of sound and pronunciation within a word, because we only pronounce in the syllables, not each word. And as a result, it loses the basic system of a pronouncing word. As a result, it creates multiple pronunciation for one word. Example, the word for being, sema, it now have more than one sound, although you spelled exactly the same word. So when you try to spell out the sound of each word, the problem is that you lose a standard pronunciation. As a result, different version of pronunciation appears for one word. The example we have in Tibetan is a sema. These days we say sema. And because the sema is abbreviated pronunciation, And the proper pronunciation is Sema Jolo Sara. When you do the jolo for sema, it's a harada shema, and so
definitely
this is phonetical, and so apparently there are three versions of pronunciation for the same word. Some people say sema, some people say shema. Shema is more in Zhang region, and then the same the people in Pakistan, the Buddhistan, they pronounce the bean as a sarama, which actually is the version of Jolok system, Sarama. That is the proper Jolok system reading. And if you follow that system, then it will maintain the same sounds throughout the time. Sarama.
language tapes university tone the professor 근데 콜라미 점중지 보스탄나 되기 근데 텐지 콜라마 앞에를 구두 방금 많이 깨져 좀 콜라마 대비 텐디 그 마루에 구두 내 가나 하고 제가 혼자 로야한테 만나 근데 유명 깨지 당연하다 다 이면스니도 이나 민스니도 미나 다른 것이 미그 마이 라나 상나 되게 건조 해버려도 다 좀바데 내지식인가 내지로와 내 답이지만 내지식인데 제가 구두 그래서 나스파이 나사 파야다 차정부치 참아 잠바 나스파이 주시가 가로파이스 가라다 가나로 조르와 제가디 저로 개별 구디 디기로는 다디 관계 심리시 이기심의 관계 하고로와 주시비부터 가로 이제 디진 디제다네 지 저로 되네 하고 대동안 들어오래 시작하고 만나오지 관계하고 해야지 그것도 아니 라다 되게 지고리 다 뒤주제디 라다다 사다 신의 뒤주제디 보디스탄에 스리유다 누잖아 디보도 접시 걸사 보디스탄 장조도와 기억되어 왔지 매일 제나 안동 부동계제 디보도 고대 먹고도 다 같이 좀 더스 켜두고 게디 거기에 딜러는 로시미 라다르는 안도 지르네 다시야 다시래 이 거기 예정을 내는 라다스는 고제하고 보시는 대용으로 잡는 제가 그것은 제는 겹통은 편도지도 되게 전 그 겹통은 샤버 때문에 뒤 계속 시험을 됐다 저거 좀 계속 시험을 때곧 대야가 개마시라도 된 욕좀 내가 하고 해야지 내가
So recently, before a friend of mine, who's a professor of linguistics, he traveled to Pakistan, where there is a Tibetan, I think, dissident or the dialect spoken community. This, I think, community maybe has been kind of separated from the main Tibetan community over centuries. But somehow they're able to maintain the language, I think, connection. And when you analyze their language, and you would understand that they're using the Jorlok system in the spoken language. And although it's strange to hear initially the word, but when you write them down the way you hear them, then you can figure out what they're saying. And when the professor came back, he reported me his finding, and later he wrote a book on this. I don't remember his name just now, but I'll mention this name when it's propped up later. And I would like to give you a couple of examples, the word that he picked it up. And for example, in Tibetan, yes or no, like a yin, men. In the Buddhistan, there's a yin, mena. Basically, they're pronouncing each word. But as soon as you hear them, and if you write down the way you hear them, you can figure out there's no problem. And for example, the word for eyes and ears, both like a na, na. When we do the abbreviated version, we wouldn't be figure out which word goes for which. But when they say rana, sana, then you can easily figure out which goes for the eye, which goes for the ear, because they're spelling out all the words. And especially another interesting word that they use, initially I had a problem understanding, but later it makes a perfect sense, was the word for tampa. And it's written in Tibetan, the classical Tibetan for tampa is neche. But when they say neche, they would say nespai. Nespai is very different from neche. But when you write it down, na sa ne, paya the chadambuche, neche, that's a tampa word. And the word for flower, tuship, is a karupai. So ka, rada, naro, and then pa, yada, trache. So when you hear them, and if you write down the way you hear them, it's a perfect Tibetan word. The spelling is correct. And again, when you look at this case study in Pakistan, and then if you travel to east in Amdo region, you would find a similar trend in a very kind of, I think, untouched or remote areas. People still speak the Jolo system. And in certain areas in Amdo, for tiger, there's a sadak. They pronounce the word sa, the starting letter sa. And if you write them down the way you hear them, it makes perfect sense. And so my kind of view is using this Jolo system has a lot of advantage when we think about creating a common pronunciation. This is because it's less complicated because you have a written word to aid to the system. And it's easier to understand because you pronounce each word. And also it's less problem because people already started using them before. So we're not creating a new system. So this is my view. And another example for head is in Buddhistan, there's a sakara. And this is also case in Amdo, I don't know. In Amdo, it's
Oh, yeah, they try it. Rada dige kangala arwa.
Rata kaji yata chikhe amdo kela.
Hala.
Rata kaji yata chadu.
Oh. Yate kaji yaudwa.
Sabde bole.
Tene dilo shen din dilo. Ra nyamda. Real. 이내 지수 뒤로도 겹치에 이기 냠에 친구 중 대기 규정이 뒤로 그 인주 전문고 매버주 배나 다시 넘는 라다 디간들 참은 래 비수 와. 또 뒤로 제거 이기 냠
대순 차선.
또
또 동대 저러
저러
뒤에 순 차선. 뒤에
제일선
뼈디게 상순 차선. 저러 기댄스.
혼다 또 저러 규정이 계zen디 저로 제거 그 인주리 작품 볼때 수제장 장다 월 개월 중과 앞에나 안에디 들어서 나서 또라 나서 실로 상면 대벌 고텐 그러나 다 그리스탄만 디어 사가도다 그럼바 내서 이렇게 되었다. 이게 다른 의신이 강가잖다. 가셔야 인주는 이 노니 야 하고 직용이야도 네 강의 선답이나 머스탕 인지난다 머스탕 그거 봐. 그런 벽에 나 맨당 와맨 이와 제가 사면탕 쓰기다 사면탕 제가 니야 인주도 구실로네야 하고 동안 니 저로 두루 제전에 양이 하지 못도 디래라고도 딸이 때 그런 다른 때 축지는 가면 때 가면 좀 공부하는 그래 나와다 괜찮아 또 가면 뭐 정도 그들 그래서 다 제대로 그들이 가서 하고도 가면 그 다른 때 가면 쉬어 그들 일이 되게 제티 다르서 되게 뭐 내가 그들이 영어를 싫어 뭐좀 가면 나가야 영용도 되네 양디 레벨 친구들이 당하시
So the next session, I wanted to emphasize on the advantage of using this Jollof system for the basis for common language. Of course, there are many advantages, and one of the important advantage is when you spell out the spellings, the pronunciation, and then I think creates a good standard in terms of how you say it and which order you keep it. And it has less, I think, risk of mispronunciation than the abbreviated system. And that's, I think, one of the major advantages, especially when it's aided with the written scripture.